several hundred Boy Scouts camped at LP Field. Sexual orientation is one thing they didn't talk about.
I'll be safety.
Some worry a new policy could change that.
It'll be a discussion point around a campfire now.
Scout executive Hugh Travis believes discussion about sexual orientation is inevitable if the organization adopts a policy allowing openly gay scouts. That's why the Middle Tennessee Council plans to oppose the change.
By a wide majority, most parents do not want gay leaders or gay scouts in their scouting program, openly gay leaders and scouts in their program.
Travis says his council surveyed parents before making its decision and found 66% oppose openly gay scouts, compared to just under 16% that support them, like this father.
It's a tough question. I don't think that they should be discriminated against, if that's somebody's sexual preference.
The Tennessee Equality Project is among those who are disappointed.
It's very sad to me that people would be afraid of these boys.
Chris Sanders says allowing openly gay scouts could help with bullying.
Boys who have different sexual orientations are not any kind of a threat. They just want to learn leadership. They just want to be accepted.
Still, Travis points out gay boys are allowed to be in the Scouts, as long as they're not open about it.
I think sometimes people perceive that we're combing through the ranks, eliminating those that don't think like us. And that's not the case. It's far from the case.
That's a news report from Fox 17 out of Nashville. And this is this is a huge topic. When you realize what the beginnings were of the Boy Scouts, so they were actually started by a man in England who really and truly wanted to instill biblical character into boys. One wonders what the founder of the Boy Scouts would think. Well, we have the privilege now of talking with John Stemberger, who's an attorney. He's very involved in the pro-life, pro-family movement, has been for a long time. But I think very germane to our conversation is the fact that John happens to be an Eagle Scout and president of onmyhonor.net, onmyhonor.net. John, let me get the facts on the table first, and I'll appeal to you as an attorney first and foremost. What is the Boy Scout National Council considering doing, and where are they in their decision-making at this point in time?
The proposal, Janet, which will be voted on by 1,463 roughly delegates in Grapevine, Texas on May 23rd, is to allow open and avowed homosexuality, the Scouts' own words, amongst the young people, the boys in the unit. So it would allow a 15, 16, 17-year-old gay activist or someone that was openly expressing their sexuality to be a part of the program, and requires every single scouting unit to facilitate open homosexuality by allowing these boys in. Before there was a local option talked about where every troop would decide what they're going to do. Now that's off the table. This is a mandatory rule which applies to every single unit, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Explorer units in the country.
Wow. John, as an Eagle Scout, when you decided to join the Boy Scouts way back when, did they ask you what your sexual orientation was?
They didn't. And we don't today. And in fact, the membership application says that we don't inquire about sexual orientation. And those of us that have been in the program a while know that there are persons with a same-sex attraction, homosexuals, in the program. There's not many, but there are a few. They've been there quite a while. And in fact, if you look on CNN, all you can see are these people in uniform that have been there for many, many years saying, oh, I'm gay, and they kicked me out. Well, the reason they were kicked out is not because of any identity issues or how they identify themselves. It had to do with their behavior, that they started engaging in petition drives to overturn the ban or gay marriage like Zach Walls does, or kind of openly expressing their views on flaunting sexuality or doing those things. When they did that, that's when scouting had a problem. So that's what we're talking about. And that's the difference here between the old and the new policies. We're allowing open homosexuality. And read here, loud and proud. Janet, anything that's gay in our society, whether it's a magazine, a blog, a website, a parade, a movie, and you can be guaranteed of one thing. It's probably utterly inappropriate for children. But yet that's what the scouting movement, they're saying they're going to be able to lock behavior down. I don't think so. Open, by definition, by their own definition, means communicating, flaunting. It means putting it out there so that it is not something that's discreet. It is out on the table, matters to be discussed around the campfire or whatever else, and parents ought to be talking about these very controversial things.
Yeah, exactly right. And it befuddles my mind, John. I don't understand this. So if the history of the Scouts has been, we understand that there may be some who have same-sex attraction. We're not going to ask. We do know that that has got to be prohibitive when it comes to those in leadership. But the question on the table now isn't leadership at the moment. It's inclusion in membership. So if they're going to change the policy, the only way you would know whether or not that policy was in fact being enacted would be if people started talking out loud about it. That very conversation changed the nature of the Scouts, does it not?
Well, that's exactly right. And I'll be honest with you, I was never actually that concerned about adults because, frankly, we have a very strict policy in Scouting. Our youth protection program is one of the best in the world. It requires too deep leadership. No boy can be left alone with any one adult at any one time. It's very strict. You can be removed from the program if you're caught alone with a boy out somewhere in any context. There has to be somebody else around in earshot or eyeshot. My concern is that this is going to do, and the top levels of Scouts know this. They know this at the highest levels, and they've made no mention of it whatsoever. This is going to create a wave of boy-on-boy sexual contact all throughout the movement, which is going to further bring public scandal to Scouting, not to mention the tragedy of the human, physical, sexual, and psychological abuse that will occur to countless boys. And I would say this, Janet, if even one boy is going to be violated because of this, shame on them. Shame on those handful of leaders in Texas that are trying to ram this down the rest of our throats. They ought to be doing what's in the best interest of the boys of the program, not what some gay activists are pressuring them to do.
John, I do want to get to the rallies and the action steps in just a minute, but I want to back up a little bit and ask exactly who on May 22nd and 23rd, who is going to be voting on this policy? To whom is this power delegated?
Well, in each council, there's 289 councils around the country. There's a president and a commissioner. The commissioner is the highest volunteer. The president is kind of a figurehead, usually a CEO or a politician, something like that. And so all those people have a vote. So that's about 600 votes. And then for each council, for every 5,000 young people, there's one delegate. And that's chosen by the Scout executive, who's the professional, who does not get a vote. And so it's really going to be a large conglomerate of people throughout the country and all the councils around the country. And so there's also the national board has a vote, but it ends up being 1,463 plus or minus that have a potential to make this decision.
Wow. Now, I find it interesting that in February, the Boy Scout Association decided that they would do a survey, and it looks like 61%, according to that survey done in February, support current policy of excluding homosexuals. How likely is this to pass?
Well, I don't know. It's really it's a very tough thing. We have a good shot at this. This is the winnable battle, but it's hard to know because even though the ballot's going to be by secret ballot, a lot of the larger cities have more progressive quote unquote people in them. They have more delegates, and so we'll have to see how this pans out. It is really there's no way of knowing for sure. That's why we need everyone's support. They can go to onmyhonor.net and get more information. They can send an email with one click to 400 of the people we have queued up of the council commissioners and presidents. So that's one way they can begin to do their advocacy.
Wow. Well, speaking of advocacy, why do I think, John, that people who hold the opposite opinion are probably trying to gear up their ranks as well?
Well, that's right. Our opponents have significant resources. They've got Bill Gates and all this big corporate money and stuff. But the good for us is we have common sense. And what's stunning about this decision, Janet, is that the BSA's own estimates show that they will lose 400,000 members of the BSA. Now, that's out of 2.6 million kids, about 1 million adults. It's stunning. And they'll lose $30 million if they make this move. Now, if they don't do this, they'll have some slight membership lost over time, but not a lot. And the money that they'll lose is just a fraction of what they'll lose because the corporations really are not that big. We've been hearing about Merrick and UPS. Those are really not the big donors. The big donors are the Rich DeVosses and the big folks like that. Wayne Perry and guys that are wealthy, conservative traditionalists. They're not, these progressive lefties. And so really they stand to lose lots more money and lots more people if they make this change. So it makes no sense as a practical matter whatsoever.
Exactly. So the question then comes, where was the hue and cry for the change coming from? I mean, were there hundreds, thousands of boys who said, I'm openly homosexual and I want to go into the Boy Scouts, and they were told they couldn't join?
Well, here's what happened. What's remarkable is that less than a year ago, July of last year, they affirmed a 2-year study they did from 2010 to 2012. And an 11-person volunteer committee unanimously concluded that this was, quote, the best, absolute best policy for the Boy Scouts of America. The absolute best. And now less than a year later, as soon as they affirmed that last summer, the cultural bullies of our day just begin to scream and shout, and they pounded the leaders at a very top level, and they begin to negotiate and send people in and develop relationships and have the, quote, conversation, and all this pressure was being put on them, and Madonna and Bill Gates, and it was just a lot of pressure. And it takes quite a bit of moral fortitude to withstand that pressure. And they begin to cave. They begin to say, oh, this is the future. Look at the polling on gay marriage. Everything's going to change. The young parents, they're all about gay rights. Well, gays can be in the program. They just have to be discreet. They can't be open and avowed. They can't be promoting gay activism and flaunting their sexuality. That's just inappropriate for any program with kids. That's the point here.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me, John, but is Madonna going to put her son in the Scouts anytime soon? Is that even on her radar screen?
No, it's ridiculous what's happening.
Yes, it's political activism.
But this is a winnable battle. We need folks' support. Go to onmyhonor.net, send an email, sign up for the rallies we're going to be having. Can we talk about the rallies?
Please do.
Next Friday, May 17th, from noon to 1:30 at your respective time zone, we're going to have hundreds of people, thousands of people around the country are going to gather around the local council offices, and we'll have them at onmyhonor.net. By this Friday, we'll have them populated where they're going to be around the country. But if you sign up for an email, and by the way, this campaign is only 2 weeks long, so you're not going to get emailed forever. I mean, this will go away. And so we're sending out 2 alerts every week about what's going on, but we want folks to come, especially folks in uniform, alumni, Eagle Scouts, Scoutmasters, people that used to be in Scout when they were a kid, even if you just love the Scouts and want to support them. In hundreds of locations around the country, we'll have conclaves, we'll have press conferences, people will be gathering with signs saying vote no on the resolution. Part of the challenge is we don't know who the delegates are. They're not releasing a list of them, so we can't lobby them, we can't do vote count, so we're just kind of communicating through the media in hopes that we can find these folks and communicate to them to vote no on the resolution. This is going to literally devastate the program financially, legally, and socially.
John, you have 2 boys in Scouting. If the policy goes the wrong way, will you pull them out?
I will. Sadly, and with great reluctance, knowing what it's meant to me. It's a part of the fiber of who I am. But if they're going to make that kind of compromise, Janet, there's no end to the compromise. If society becomes more and more secular and they take another poll, well, then I guess God's gone as well. And this is the test of moral relativism for Scouting, and we only pray that they will pass it.
And pray is the operative word. Now, folks, it's onmyhonor.net. If you forget it, we've put it under John's short bio at our website, like we do every day, right under his picture, In the Market with JanetParshall.org. Click it on. They've got some great reasons listed on the website why this is a bad policy. Great things for you to consider. And remember, May 23rd, make it a day of prayer and check out this information. We'll be back.